And if you see the buffalo population, adult population, which gives milk at that, which gave milk at that time, it was 21 million. 21 million buffaloes produce 9.2 million tons of milk. That is almost 54% of the milk contribution from buffaloes way back some 70 years before. But now if you see the buffalo population, which are adults, which are giving milk, that means in milk and the dry animal population, they are only 55 million, but gives 91.8 million tons of milk. If the ratio, if you see the population and the milk production, it was somewhere 0.4 or zero point 0.6, but now it is 1.3. So that is the impact these buffaloes they have as a contribution to the milk industry. Although another one thing is livestock population, they are not increasing at a speed. There are some fluctuations in between. But if you see the buffalo population, always there is. That means the farmers are interested more towards rearing the buffaloes, in spite of the fact that a lot of buffaloes are being sent for meat production every year. That's set of that. And how these 55 million buffaloes produce 91 million, if you see, the last 10 years or 15 years, you see a tremendous increase, as Dean sir was also mentioning that there is a huge jump in the milk production because of the individual animal productivity, and that you can visualize in case of buffaloes as well. In the last 10, this one, if you see 4.4 to 5.6. And one more interesting finding is, what are all the states that are leading in buffalo population in India? Their contribution to the milk production is immense. For instance, if you see Punjab, Haryana, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, and Uttar Pradesh. These 5 states, they contribute more than 44% of the total milk production in the country, and they are the states which are the leaders in the buffalo population as well. Having said, everybody will now say that, or even many platform people used to ask, yes, buffalo is giving a lot of milk and it is contributing. So what is the problem with it? Do you think that there is a reproductive problem? Many persons say no, it is not, because milk production is keep on increasing. So automatically the population is also increasing, and I don't find much of the magnitude in the reproduction problem. But if you see the data, what it says, I have taken intentionally the example between 2007 to 2012, although 2019 data are available on the public domain. If you compare 2012 with 2019, there is only 1 million increase from 108.7 to 109.8. That's all. That's how I have taken this particular data, because there is 3 million increase at the time. So if you see, this is quite interesting data. If you minutely observe, the population under 1 year, it is 17 in 2007. 1 to 3 years, 13 to 15 million. This is milk and dry population. That is 35.64 to 36 and 13 to 14.8. So the total breedable population, it increased from 48 to 51 only and the total buffalo population correspondingly 3 million. So what we expect 5 years, if there is a gap, and the base population is 48.46 million. So how much it has to add to the population if the reproductive efficiency is quite normal? See the table which I have given here. The total duration is 5 years, and I have taken a very, very, very extraordinary limit which we don't consider as a target for reproduction. So what I have taken is one calf in every 2 years. So if you see the total calving cycle expected out of these buffaloes is 2.5, because every 2 years they calve. So the in-milk population is only 48 million. So automatically, if they calve at least 2 calves in the whole period of intercensus period, that is 5 years, we expect the population should be increased. And the added population in the existing population is 96 million. And if we take the normal standard, we take usually 10% of 20% animal health and 10% mortality, but I have taken extreme again, 20%. So if we add 20% of animals are culled and 20% of animals are died, then also we expect 62 million population increase. And you know very well, buffalo slaughter has allowed, and even 7 now it is 8.1 million tons of the meat that is being produced in our country, and the number of animals slaughtered stood at 32 million. So, in spite of all this, we expect if the reproduction of the buffalo is at par or as desired, or even one calf in 2 years, then at least we expect 30 million buffalo population. But what we have achieved, it is only 3 million. The question is, where are those 27 million buffaloes? If reproduction, even at this particular degree, if it is there, where? I meant to say that whether the question is, have they really existed ever? If not, what happened? Why they are not existing? That's what we will be discussing in this presentation. And these particular facts may explain the gap in between these two. What we normally expect is, in terms of cow, a calf per cow per year. Similarly, in case of buffaloes, instead of a year, it may be 13 to 14 months. So that's what we expect. And any question? And in that process, we expect the animal has to involute uterus within 30 days and then ovarian resumption. That is very important in case of buffaloes because it is always delayed, and several cases of postpartum acyclicity is being documented in case of buffaloes. And the voluntary weaning period also plays a major role in case of postpartum reproduction. So all these when it fulfilled, then the animal gets conceived in 85, 115 or 120 days, then automatically we can expect all these. But it is not happening. Why it is not happening? There are two main issues, as the dean sir also explained, that is repeat breeding and anesthesia. These two issues makes the country to lose 50,000 crores per annum. I will be explaining a little later. So these two are the major problem that delays the postpartum conception as well as extend the calving interval, and they are the major reasons for this particular case. So having said with this backdrop, yes, buffaloes are important, but buffalo population is not increasing as desired by a reproductive biologist how the reproduction should be. It is not happening. Why it is not happening? There are some problems. And how to address those problems. That's what we will be discussing for the next 44 minutes. When we think of evaluating some of the measures to augment the reproductive efficiency, we have to have the base data what is. And most of the time we don't have a reliable base data. That is available, I have compiled. This is from 1982 onwards. The Buffalo Congress compiled this thing. So it may not be the true reflective data of every state or every park. It is just overall to give an idea. 80 to 40% of the buffaloes reach abortire due to only one retrieving birth. So with the gynecologists, we need to have a lot of role into this. And the organized farm and rural household, if you compare, it is age at first calving, it is 43 here it is 47. Service period 132 and 189. And calving interval almost 420 or 430 here, then it extends more beyond that 500 days also. And conception rate almost it stagnates between 40 to 40. What is inferred is here out of this. So in spite of having this 109 million of buffaloes, out of which around 50 million is in the adult, 46 or 50 million is in the adult, which are contributing to the male, only few percent of the animals they do cow regularly. The remaining animal they are going for only household consumption, whether the calf is there or not, something is giving, and that's how it is. So our role is to bring those population into the milk into population. That's why this milk production in buffalo can be optimized or improved. Why reproductive efficiency? Everybody of us know. But still, main issues in case of buffaloes, delayed puberty and sexual maturity. If you see the same buffaloes in case of Mediterranean countries like Italy, it is 26 months or 25 months or maximum 28 months. As a sexual maturity is a time. But in case of our country, even the elite Murrah buffaloes also 31 months. So at least 5 months gap is there in terms of early attaining the puberty or sexual maturity. Silent estrus, yes, it is a problem. And even people used to consider buffalo as seasonally polyestrous, which I personally don't agree. They are not seasonally polyestrous. Animals are coming. When they are ovulating, they cannot be called as seasonally polyestrous. They ovulate every season. Able to identify. So that's how we cannot blame a buffalo as a seasonally polyestrous. Rather, I would consider it as a polyestrous animal. Silent estrus into overt estrus and how to manage that I will come later. Then repeat breeding and anestrus. As I told you earlier, they take a lot of expo in terms of countries. Sorry. So 40 to 50,000 crore loss is only due to these two conditions: repeat breeding and postpartum. Of course, not only with buffaloes, but also with combined with cattle. Uterine infection, again, previously it was not that much magnitude in case of buffaloes as well as cattle. But now uterine infection is a problem, and it is going to exaggerate in near future. Because almost 30% of the animal now, whatever the thing existing, they are suffering from uterine infection. I'm not classifying it to endometritis or something like that, but as a whole uterine infection, it is 30% or more population are affected with uterine infection. Summers of fertility, again, it is a unique feature in case of buffalo. Yes, they do have some low breeding season, but they do breed at that time. And mastitis, you may think that why this gynecology fellow is talking about mastitis. I will come to next slide or next to next slide. Mastitis is very important. Really, reproductive efficiency of cattle or buffalo, anything to be controlled is mastitis. And the male part, it is very much important in case of buffaloes, which I am not going to cover this particular presentation. It is a poor semen cryotolerance. It is a problem. If you accept or not, it is a problem in case of cryopreservation of buffalo semen. It is not at par with a cattle. Because cattle semen, even if you get post-mortem 60, 70, some of the buffalo bulls you can get, but a majority it is not possible because of large buffalo semen. The cryopreservation association issues are still there in case of buffalo bulls. Having said that, these are all the things that affects the buffalo reproduction. How much is affected? This is very important because unless and otherwise you quantify the importance or quantify the effect of that particular thing, you cannot or one cannot understand the importance of the issue. If you take just a RF, retention of fetal memory, it extends the service period by minimum of time. Now I am talking about the minimum value here, 15 days. And additional service consumption, for example, if an animal conceives in 2 inseminations, here it needs 2.3 inseminations. For an individual animal, it may be simple. 15 days kya ho gaya, 0.3 insemination kya ho gaya. But if you take 100 animals, then it is huge. Similarly, in case of metritis, sorry, 35 days is the extended service period, and additional service is 0.5. And if you go to endometritis, which we consider as a lower severity when compared to metritis, but you see the effect, it requires additional conception of 1.5 because the metritis are visible and the person identifies, whereas subclinical endometritis and other endometritis goes unnoticed, and that's how the animal keep on repeating. That's how the number of service conceptions is quite high. And pronounced it is 119 days, and additional is 1.5. 154 is the extended service period, means beyond the normal service period, and additional the number of insemination is 3.1. 114 and 1.8. Importance of these particular conditions. And these are all the direct losses in terms of quantity. In terms of quantity of money is involved in everything. So how much it is delayed first calving, 1,500 rupees per month is the loss, direct loss I am talking about, not calculating how much it would have been cowed earlier, how many cows it would have been produced, how much milk. It's not. It's a direct cost, feeding cost and other costs. So missing of single estrus cycle, it is 3,000 to 4,000 per animal if you miss a single estrus cycle of 21 days. And repeat breeding on estrus, I told already. Uterine infection is one thing which is emerging, and it is fasting, and it is going to cost more fast. And each day in extending interval is 300 per animal, extended calving interval. If one day is increased the calving interval, then it is going to cost rupees 300 per animal per farm. All these things because of the reduced milk, increased culling and treatment cost. Yes, I was referring to mastitis. Why mastitis? See now, previously maybe 1 decade before or something like that, mastitis was considered as a infection restricted to adults, and it affects milk production. That's why a lot of humans cry, and because it affects the milk production from a family. But the inside story of mastitis something is different. If you see that photograph what I have given here, the animal is suffered from mastitis. Definitely it also immunity. I'm not getting into the molecular later. Okay, so it increases the susceptibility to other diseases because the immunity is altered. That is the first thing. Second thing, direct is milk loss and lameness. These are all the things direct causes of mastitis. And indirect, what it does, it decreases the feed intake, body condition, and all these things directly affect the LHRH or GnRH neurons, and the secretion of LHRH or GnRH is in case of mastitis is altered because the LPS and other things which is I will be talking about in uterine infection also when I talk about this. So they do have a direct effect on the brain, and then they desensitize or they alter the expression of the profile of some of the molecules that helps in releasing the LHRH in the quantity desired. It is not happening in these particular ones. But more importantly, if you see the photograph which I have given in the right lower part, because the trend of the mastitis is increasing, just I have given the 50 years, over the 50 years, how much is the mastitis is increasing. And what is the importance of the mastitis? Here, if you see, the service and pregnancy, service period is being delayed when animal is suffering with the mastitis. How? The main important thing is the right lower corner, which I have already explained. It is not only, the mastitis do not only affect the reproductive efficiency of that particular animal which is affected with mastitis. Consider if an animal is carrying a female fetus and she is getting affected with mastitis. The effect of mastitis passes through the placenta and go into the fetus and affects her ovary and depletes. I cannot say that depletes or reduces the number of oocyte reserve in the ovary. So, a female born out of a cow which is affected with mastitis during the pregnancy period is not expected to reproduce or behave in a normal way in case of reproduction. So if you want to have a good reproducibility in next generation, this generation the mastitis has to be curtailed or reduced. Since it is buffaloes, this topic cannot be left unattended, because heat stress is very important in this particular species because of their own inherent problems, sweat glands are absent, so they cannot have this thermal conductivity and other things. Hair is bad, and their color is black. But the main thing what I want to make in this particular slide is, second is for cattle because this is from abroad. But what here is 1 degree Fahrenheit increase can decrease consumption rate by 7%. And that is the one thing that we have to take care. And how to take care, I will explain. I have the remedy also for this. Having said that, these two, mastitis, heat stress, and all these things are the major contributors for the reduced risk. Now onwards, we will see condition-wise what is the issue and what can be done to improve the reproducibility. First and foremost question is how to improve the reproducibility. Here my submission is, always we say this is white cattle, this is black cattle. It is not so. Cattle is cattle, buffalo is buffalo. Kumaration is kumaration, mahua is mahua. So we cannot just say that extrapolate everything from one species to other species. That's what we ultimately we are doing. So first and foremost thing is understand buffaloes as buffaloes. They do have some inherent characteristics, and according to that characteristics only they will breed and they will reproduce. There are some of the theoretical importance as well as some practical importance this table. Puberty, I told it is early, cattle it is little bit early, and buffalo it is late. And the main interest is here is primordial follicle reserve. If you see, 1 lakh is reported in case of cattle, whereas in case of buffaloes it is almost 1 lakh. People may ask that after all it is going to calve 6 or 7 calves. Why we need that? No, it is needed because the complementary role of a cohort for a developing follicle is very important to make the oocyte in the dominating follicle is robust in terms of quality, and that's how conception rate and other things is improved. So that's how inherently this animal have less follicular reserve. And the expression of estrus, it is very pronounced and less pronounced. And duration of estrus, ovulation, silent heat, all other things, these things, they vary between cattle and buffalo. So submission here is not to extrapolate everything and expect a buffalo to behave as a HF. Getting into, how to improve reproductive efficiency, one has to understand what is the basic equation of reproduction. And here, the first line is very important, and any person who has read the Roberts book, Stephen J. Roberts book, they might remember this. Reproduction is a luxurious phenomena to the body. We may say that, yes, we want to get lot of calf. Unless and otherwise she felt the need for that, we cannot get into her, in spite of your hormonal treatment and others. For that, again, I will refer the talk by Dean sir. So nutrition. Nutrition is very much in gynecologist's role. Do not start in the backside of the animal. Once the anterior part of the animal is taken care, we gynecologists, we don't have much of the problem. But unfortunately, it is not happening. That is the other side of the story. But we have to understand that, yes, because you know very well, lot of the metabolic cues like leptin, like fatty acid, like glucose, these all things intermingle and control the secretion of the GnRH as well as other reproductive products. So unless and otherwise these all integrated mechanisms are fulfilled, we cannot get a realistic endocrine behavior in that particular animal so that she reproduces. So one has to understand, yes, if I want to make my animal to reproduce effectively, I have to make her desire fulfilled. That means to say the body reserves and other things need to be taken care of. Because if you see the priority of the animal, here I have given highest priority is first for maintenance. She has to maintain herself, then growth, then lactation, then comes fetal growth, and after that only it comes breeding. So this is the 5th hierarchical dominance in case of from highest priority to lowest priority. So if you want to make that, so fulfill all the 4 automatically. Score, which is if it is dropped by 0.5 to 1 in scale of 6, 10 to 15% decline conception rate is expected. So in this, whatever the hormone also you do, it is not going to help. And if any buffalo form is there, what are the key variables affecting fertility? What I meant to say here is, again, I'll refer to George Orwell in Animal Farm. Everybody is equal, but some are more equal. Again, here also, there are four parameters that controls the herd fertility. Animals detected in heat and inseminator, inseminator efficiency, fertility level of the herd, semen fertility level. If all the things 4 or 100%, then the success rate is 100%. But if all are 75, it is not 75. It is not a mathematics. It is a biology. So it comes to only 32%. But if we take care of these two, inseminator efficiency and semen fertility level, then this 32% increases to 50. So if any buffalo farm or reproduction you want to enhance, these two has to be given very important, especially inseminator efficiency and semen fertility level. So first issue, delayed sexual maturity. Everybody has no, yes, buffaloes they do have. But if you assess little bit, get into the details of that, if you see, always as I told, that sexual maturity or puberty is more of body weight rather than age with everybody who is the DVSC knowledge. But the main thing here, what I want to make is to get more body weight. It is not equally every day. It is not gaining 400 gram or 300 gram. There are some particular period in the pre-pubertal period. During that period, the animal gains more body weight. And if we identify that particular period and fed her properly, then we will get a good result. For instance, I have given here, this is one of my experiments, one of my students' experiments. From birth to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, 12 to 18 months, 18 to 24 months, and 30, 36. We know very well around 24, 25 months. The next graph, the right side graph, if you see, the peak says progesterone peak, progesterone, sorry, I cannot say peak, progesterone level, elevated level. Nanogram, the animal has come into heat. If you see, it starts from 25 months of age. Okay. And if you see the body weight gain, it is around 24. From 18 to 24 is one area, one window of the growth, and 6 to 12 months is one window of growth. 6 to 12 months and 18 to 24 months. In this window, if we take care of these buffalo heifers adequately, then maturity and other thing will be advanced automatically. This is the one thing. And second important thing is for managemental aspect. If you see, summer born, winter born, we always say, and many persons ignore it also. It is born, anyway it will come in the puberty after 25 months. No, it is not happening. Why? Here two examples I have given. These are summer born. May month, yes, but around 26, 28 months to get puberty, that's what we have proved earlier. So if you see, May to May, this is 1 year. Again, the May to May, this is 2 years. This is 6 months or 4 months. So, to attain from here, 1st May to this October, where she is expected to attain puberty and sexual maturity, if you see, if she is born in summer, she has to experience 1, 2, 3 summers. 3 summers, wherein we know very well what is summer in India. Get even a good amount of forage or fodder or even feed during the summer part. So, and kindly recall what the graph which I have shown earlier, 6 to 12 months and 18 to 24 months. So during that period, exactly they will be in the sunlight. So when the animal needs to grow more, at that time they don't get good quality access or good access in terms of quantity as well as quality, because it is a summer. Whereas if you see a fellow who is born, gifted, he is born in winter or November, let's say. So November to November 1 year, November to November next year, and then March. If you see, she has 3 winter and she has to go only 2 summer, but they do not corroborate in that particular growth phase. So that's how by a simple managemental tool, we can modulate little bit the advance the age at puberty. So if you don't want to do that, what can be done? So use this protocol. This protocol again we have tested. We all know that GnRH comes in a pulsatile manner, and even at the age of 2 weeks, there is a small rise in the GnRH, and that rise is very much important for the future. If you see, so we expect that around 25th month the animal has got in puberty. Accordingly, from 21, 22, 23, 24, these months, just 1 microgram of the GnRH. 1 microgram of GnRH is what we normally use. And if you prime the animal, then the age at sexual maturity is preponed by at least 5 months. When I was there in NDRI Karnal, whatever the knowledge I am sharing with you, that is my first-hand experience, When I worked in Karnal cattle yard, we had around 400 to 500 odd buffaloes there. So they are my teachers for this. Then the second issue is silent estrus. Since time is burning, so I will just make hurry up. So silent estrus, very well, even to the extent of 70% silent estrus has been reported. And this silent estrus exact reason still we do not know, but we attribute to some of the animals may be high threshold level for estrogen, and some of the animals they produce low estrogen. Why it produces because of that reason, nobody knows. That's all. For that, we have to know estrus behavior sequence. This is in our form only. First, the animal which is coming into heat, maybe a silent or other thing, she actually isolates herself. But the other persons, they start following her. And then they play. That we call it as a courtship or something like that. It goes like that. And then bellowing. And then if it is a overt estrus, then these are the symptoms out. And even in silent estrus also, there are animals which experience frequent urination on the vulva. And ultimately, the mucus discharge, which you will not be able to see in case of silent estrus, but whereas in normal estrus, this one able to see. So in that case, if you want to identify the silent estrus and then you want to make mechanization or something like that, if it is a large form, a commercial form, which are mushrooming nowadays, which are coming up on the large scale, then you can go for these technology-based sensors. Technology-based sensors are available and they are customized for buffaloes also. And they can be used based on the activity monitoring. But only one thing is the buffaloes do not retain when we tie these sensors in the leg. Neck also, but sometimes they fight and they do it. That is the only adverse system which we have observed. Otherwise, the activity prediction is quite simple and it can be integrated in a large form where labor problem can be solved in that particular. If we have small holders, they are having only 5 or 6 animals, then the best is, for example, in a village also, earlier in my village and other village, there used to be a one bull who used to roam around and then identify him, but he could not make. So that's sort of the teaser. He is the biological sensor. Even 1 kilometer apart also, a bull can recognize, yes, there is a female who is in heat and I can go on. Something like that. So that is the duty of this biological sensor. But in case of buffaloes, if there is a community form, other form, better to have a teaser. That's what my personal experience is. And here also there is one theory, because all our reproduction, it revolves around Coolidge effect, Witten effect, Liebert effect, and all these effects, they only contribute to all our gynecological physiology as well as pathology. If you see here, what we could observe is, if it is a he for herd, then adult teaser which has a lot of experience, that fellow performs good duty. Because when we talk about estrus, there are two things: estrus reduction efficiency and accuracy. Efficiency is if there is a 50 animal expected to be in heat, if I identify 25, then my efficiency is 25. And if I identify 50 and then bring them and examine and find only 25 is there, that is accuracy, 50%. But this fellow, when an adult teaser who has a lot of experience in teasing, that fellow is introduced into the heat for head, then he identifies a lot of teasers in the heat. When we use inexperienced bull, it is not happening. But the vice versa, or the ulta is true in case of adults. When we have the adult cow, if you get into that along with then most of the buffaloes, they respond and something. So these are all the sum of them. Always you know very well, it is nutrition, management, novelty, NMN. The whole reproduction revolves around that one. Plays a major role in case of a teaser. Then we want to get into increased teaser reduction efficiency and accuracy. And this is one simple method. Again, NDRI has developed this. We know very well saliva-based ovulation assessment kit is available in case of human beings. Just to take a strip and touch it and then see in the microscope. If the fern pattern, this burning pattern is there, then the female is considered as a fertile and advocated for okay. But in case of animals, this saliva, they do have some of the patterns. Here A, B, C, D, E, F, they are the variations during the cycle. And even my own study, my student has conducted this study, and even there are some peculiar pattern in case of pregnancy also, but it is not fully validated, so I am not communicating. But in case of estrus, yes. We know very well cervicovaginal mucus pattern. Anybody can say, this is in 1970s. Yes. How many farmers will collect cervicovaginal mucus? They cannot, but saliva one can take very easily. Just to take the saliva and observe the pattern which is associated with ovulation aspect. the animal is having this particular pattern, and this we have proved using estrogen, progesterone, and other hormone assay as well, and ultrasound. So this is the one thing which is an unorthodox, which is a non-conventional method asserted in case of buffaloes. The next issue is summer subfertility. I don't want to get into this because heat stress we have already discussed. What it does is it increases the cortisol. And you know very well cortisol, if it increases, automatically it blocks estrogen and decreases GnRH. So the estrogen expression is reduced, or some of the animals which are having a high threshold for estrogen, they don't respond to the normal level of estrogen. That's how they don't exhibit the estrogen. So here, this is the thing which proves very good. But you need one air conditioner. You may see that I don't have AC, how I can give to buffalo. But if you want to have a buffalo, even if you go to Haryana, people say that I don't need Adi. Adi don't give milk, but buffalo gives. So that much, if you have that much sort of the buffaloes, then going for this is quite simple, because in one facility, it can be used for a lot of buffaloes. So what we did here is, we exposed the buffalo. Yes, we have identified this buffalo is in heat. And we know that I'm going to breed her, artificially inseminate her by 9 o'clock. So 6 o'clock, she has been put into the particular room. Means temperature control room, nothing more than that. Little bit cooling. This is what even in case of villages they used to do. Apply some gunny bag and then pour the water. Same mechanism, but it is little bit sophisticated because of conditioning, and large scale it can be used. So 3 hours before and 3 hours after AI, it increases the conception rate by double. You see here, control, and 68% of the animals conceive, and that too these are like heifers. So ultimately, if you want to make an animal which is heat stressed, or the so-called, we say the silent heat stress, or the so-called summer infertility, or the seasonality in breeding, that can be addressed by these methods. And it reduces very well cortisol. Kindly recall my earlier slide. The cortisol inhibits, and that's how the stress behavior is not more. Here, the exposed animals, they had low amount of cortisol, and that helps in the expression. So almost 30-35%. This is not done in only some 6 animals or something like that, some good number of animals. So this can be considered in case of commercial farms when we have priceless concept. And again, there are some protocol for summer subfertility to overcome summer subfertility. This is just DPG, which I will be coming to later also. DNRH, PGF12 for DNRH. But in case of field conditions, this one, especially when we go for a deworming and then 14 days wait, and then vitamin ADE phosphorus injection and 7 days, and then go for GPG, the conception rate and the estrus response to the animal during the low breeding season again is quite high, and the conception rate is also quite high, and this can be readily used because it is not going to cost. Only you have to have the 21 days, that's it. Otherwise, costs are very less only. This protocol has given a very good result for us. Peripartum diseases, any questions? Peripartum diseases. Hello, please. Someone's mic is disturbing a lot. Please. Please put off your mic. So, peripartum diseases is an issue. If you take whatever the goal Bharacam is 5%, you take a forget about that. It's not that much you don't get. Ketose is 2.5%, mastite is 10%, and matite is 10%. This is compiled from different sources. So it says that it is not exactly what we aim, but it is something beyond that, more than double. The functional disorders, they cause 65%, or they are the 65% reason for extended starving to conception. And infectious causes alone is 30%. So for the next 3-4 slides, I have uterine infection specifically, because this is increasing day by day. And this is the global prevalence of uterine infection. Of course, not only in case of buffaloes, it is also in case of cattle as well. But if you see, there are countries which have even more than 30% or 40% even. So I mean to say the uterine infection is increasing, and in case of buffaloes, it is more. This was our study when compared to cattle, because of their behavior, different behavior. And what type of uterine infection is more common? Yes, puerperal mastitis, almost 80 to 40% in case of the affected animal. It's not an overall population. And then pyometra is 4%, clinical endomyelitis is 20%, and subclinical is gaining more. And most of you might have gone through this particular figure, which Sheldon, this is a very excellent figure and very clearly explain what happens during the postpartum. 100% of the animals are harboring microorganisms. But the animals which are having good immunity, they throw away the microorganisms, whereas other persons they could not clear, and that's how they get in. And that's how the incidence of subclinical endometritis or clinical endometritis or endometritis after 21 days is quite high in terms of buffaloes. What are the consequences that this uterine infection? Again, kindly recall the mastitis story which I have told. Here, one thing is the uterine infection decreases directly because whatever the LPS that is being released by the bacteria, and that gets into the follicle and alters the follicular cell multiplication, mitosis of the granulosa cell less. Once you know the aromatase expression is less, automatically the testosterone cannot be converted into estrogen. So low levels of estrogen cannot prime the brain for the LH release, and that's how the LH release is altered in terms of both magnitude as well as the duration. That's how in case of uterine infection, there is a delayed ovulation or an ovulation. It may be subclinical uterine infection or it may be clinical. Things, because now I am already running late, so I'll just quickly go through. So these are all the risk factors for uterine infection. And in case of buffaloes, there are two very important. That's how I have given. This is my own student. Buffalo, if you see, abortion is 12 times more. Whatever the risk factor which I have given, that is, if animal is having abortion, 12 times more she is at the risk of developing uterine infection. Similarly, in case of, if you see here, RFM, in case of zebu 49, in case of crossbred 100, but in case of buffaloes, it is 125 times risk, high risk, the animal which is having RFM turn into uterine infection. Likewise, why I am showing all these things is because these are all the managemental interventions. If we prevent the RFM, then automatically we save a lot of animals getting into the uterine infection. How to diagnose? It is very simple. We all know that white side test is the one thing which is from 1960s onwards it is going on. Take 1 ml of cervical fluid and add cervicovaginal fluid and 1 ml of 5% KOH or NaOH, boil it. If it turns into yellow color, then the animal is positive. But nowadays there are more sensitive things are available, cytobrush, and this cytobrush we have modified to buffalo, because the cytobrush, the length of the gun that is used for cattle cannot be used. Because kindly recall the table which I have shown, the difference between cattle and buffalo. The horns are coiled, whereas in case of buffalo, cattle, it is straight. So these curved horns, they hinder the use of this lengthy cytobrush in case of cattle. So now after that we have devised this cytobrush, human cytobrush, and then we have used it successfully for diagnosing this one. Want to do that? Go for this just a blue sheet. Take a sheet, aspirate the uterine fluid, maybe 0.5 ml or something like that, just smear and paint. Don't even count PMNL, only epithelial cells, because we have established the cutoff value for epithelial cells also. So if it is, for example, what we say is 5%. If it is animal is around 45 to 60 days after calving, 5% if the PMN is there, then the animal is infected. Subclinically, it is a uterine infection. But here it is 6.75%. So based on the uterine epithelial cells, even without using cytobrush, just aspirating the cervical fluid, one can diagnose subclinical endometritis or subclinical uterine infection. And this is a simple protocol which we have adopted. I was involved into this, and this protocol gives a better orientation for a farm, commercial farm. Let us, if there is a commercial farm or even in a smallholder farm also, it can be applied. Just nothing more than that. What we did is calving. After calving, give some egbolic. What I use is an egbolic from the tetas, whatever the thing, ergometrin is available. Just a preventive, because 125 times animal which is having RFM is risky to get into uterine infection. So first and foremost thing is we have to prevent the RFM. So to prevent the RFM, give an egbolic, and then how early the fetal membrane is expelled. We say that 8 to 12 hours beyond that is RFM. It is not. If the animal expelled the placenta by 2 hours, and if an animal expelled the placenta by 10 hours, they are not equal, although they are physiologically normal. So we have to hasten. How much earlier placenta is expelled, that much earlier is going to be good for the animal. So RFM preventive measure, and monitor the temperature once in morning, once in evening. Any animal who is treated then and there. What I used was XC, the long-acting antibiotic, ceftiofur. And we used that, and after that, 10 to 15 days, because we know very well, it takes place on day 10 and secondary cleaning on day 20. So primarily on day 10 to 15, I have to examine once the animal, and if the animal is perfect, perfect. Otherwise, if still the infection is there, or fetid odor is there, or other odors are there, then automatically give for another one shot of injection and re-examine the animal on their death. If it is not there, then there is no need for second antibiotic treatment. And after 60 days, automatically examine the animal. If the animal is good, automatically go for insemination after voluntary waiting period. If not, induce the seizure. But there is no need for induction of heat in our study. We have studied more than 290 animals. I am presenting here more than that also. And we made this as a regular phenomena in our farm when I was there. So like that, we can minimize totally. Once the downsize the uterine infection is done, a majority of the postpartum complication and extended service period can be minimized to a maximum extent in case of buffalo. And this is a simple method. Everybody knows. Our grandfathers, they used all these things. We have given the scientific text for that. That's all. So polyherbal mixture supplementation. If we supplement this one, and what we could get is animal starts cycling very early, before 21 days. Almost 83% of the animal, they start to ovulate before 21 days in case of buffaloes, when we supplement this for 10 days only. And the supplementation cost per animal is 350 rupees, per day 35 rupees. But what you are going to get is huge. Reduce the service period by 15 days, uterine cleaning, we have measured the uterine fluid accumulation as well and the follicular development as well. So these are all the simple intervention which is in the earlier medicine or traditional medicine it is there, but we often overlook. So these are the this is called in Haryana, Punjab, this is kara feeding to buffaloes. To have to alleviate the negative energy balance, feed groundnut oil or mustard oil to this. That is a very good bypass pack, and they can help in eliminating many of the problems in the postpartum. So these are the things also it is possible to downsize. Having said all the issues and the problem and everything in the buffaloes, Mahua, can I take another 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes?
Yes, yes, sure, sir.
Mahua?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Because Dr. Fasal sir might be waiting.
No problem, sir. So
Okay,
you can
okay.
continue, sir.
Okay. So having said all these problems and other things, so now with the available this thing, how we can make or how we can make an animal to conceive, or how early it can be made to conceive. So that is the thing. First and foremost thing is use of semen from high fertile soil. There is no second opinion. And as I told in a small table, there are 4 factors, among which this is the factor which is very important. Second is winter collected semen yield conception rate, good conception rate. What we used to do is, if you want to improve the conception rate during the low breeding season in case of buffaloes, use the semen collected during the winter. Don't use the semen collected during the summer months to breed the buffalo, because that will cause an additive effect. So we could get a good conception rate when we use the winter collected semen in summer for breeding the buffaloes. So insemination of right animal and right time, I am coming to that slide next. Gentle handling, other thing, reduce, and this is one important specific to buffalo, because other heifers, cattle heifers and other things, they are very normal and they can be docile and they can be very well handled. But buffalo heifers and some of the adult buffaloes, they are very arrogant, and they always move here and there, and that causes stress. And we found that in the case of heifer, if we administer triflopromazine, I'll come to the last slide, that one I have, then the conception rate increases quite high. And post-insemination fertility enhancement therapy and control breeding. When we follow this, achieve a very high conception rate in case of buffalo. How to go about it? This topic, using semen from high fertile sire itself, is a big topic. One can talk about hours together, but I will tell you only in 2 minutes. So there are several spermatozoa functions that are very much important for the spermatozoa to get into the female reproductive tract, to fight with the mother and say that yes, I am more potent, and to bind with the oviduct, and then to be released by the oviduct and then get into the oocyte. There are some n number of, at least some 10, 12 characteristics which are known now. And those characteristics are very much important for the spermatozoa to get into the fertilization site and fertilize the oocyte. But whatever the thing now we are assessing is only the moving ability of the spermatozoa. It's not a fight just the spermatozoa get into the oocyte like this. They make love. The oocyte is there, the sperm goes and they love. So for making that love, they need a lot of protein and a lot of functions. And that proteins and that functions need to be identified to quantify the fertility of that particular ejaculate, which we are not doing as of now. But it is not so cumbersome also. I'm not talking about CASA. Forget about CASA. Even my visualization of motility of 50%, that is sufficient. But beyond that, that CASA cannot give it to you. So any of the microscopy, fluorescent microscopy or flow cytometer high throughput technique, if someone wants, sorry. So these parameters can be assessed within 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So days are not far away, and may not be today or tomorrow, but a day after tomorrow, it will be implemented in the demonstration. I'm hoping for that. And what are the things to be assessed? We have developed this fertility prediction equation as well. We have to assess only 2 or 3 parameters for the buffalo spermatozoa. Very important because this is lipid peroxidation, and as I told you earlier, contains a lot of PUFA and highly susceptible to the ROS mediated attack, and that initiates a series of mechanisms to kill the other spermatozoa as well. So if we assess the proportion of LPOP, live acrosome intact and protamine deficient, then 93% that's what the adjusted R square says. And yes, this semen is going to give good fertility or not. So the technique is available, tests are available. Only one thing is we have to come up and then we have to adopt this technique. Second, insemination at right time is important. Still, even if I go to field, a lot of my friends are working, they say AM/PM rule. Yes, AM/PM rule is good. When this rule was evolved in 1949 by Trimberger, keeping in view the estrus duration, the number of the animal exhibiting the estrus duration, and the ovulation timing at that time. But now, during the period of 60 or 70 years, many things have happened. The animal which produced 2 liters, now it is producing 25 liters. So how do you expect the same reproductive ability and same estrus cycle which was exhibiting some 60, 70 years before? It is not. Now the estrus duration is changed. The animals exhibiting estrus behavior is changed. The time of window of ovulation is changed. So in the changed scenario, the AM/PM rule, although it will give results, but may not identify the right time for insemination. So the concept now is, because why, if I keep on explaining, it will take a lot of time, so I'm not explaining that. But now is the mid-morning insemination. Whenever you find an animal, go for insemination. If she is there in heat, go for next day insemination also. In that way, only one straw is miss one estrus cycle. As I told you earlier, 5,000 to 7,000 rupees is the loss. And pin bucket value more than 8 centimeters, it gives very good result. And now automation is coming in this particular area as well. Demography, there are variations in the temperature of vulval region at the time of heat. So that temperature difference can be encased to identify the animal which is in the heat, and appropriately it can be timed. And one important thing is, when we inseminate heifers, I was baffled when I got transferred from Northeast to NDRI, Karnal, because every day I used to go to cattle farm and then inseminate by myself. So morning insemination, when we do, buffalo heifers especially, the discharge is very clear. But the same animal, when we redo the insemination in the afternoon, cloudy discharge. Then it took a lot of time for me to understand the phenomena, and it is quite normal in this particular case. So if an animal exhibits little bit cloudy, I'm not talking about very cloudy or pussy, little bit cloudy discharge, even for the second insemination, don't bother about it. It's quite normal in case of buffalo heifers. Controlled breeding protocol, this you all know, maybe Dr. Faisal will explain more, so I am skipping. But these are all the protocol that is available, and this ISPRA double sync protocol is developed by Dr. B.S. Prakash and his group, and this is specifically for buffaloes. Here, one PGF2-alpha and GnRH and PGF2-alpha and estradiol benzoate instead of GnRH in the double sync protocol. And it is said that this protocol gives good result, and it has been tested in several places across the country as well. So it can be followed if anybody goes for control breeding protocol. And this is the thing which I was telling. Whenever you are inseminating heifers, don't force her, because she always moves and she is always a little bit excited. So in that case, we used to give the cyclopromazine 10 to 20 milligram per ml, 0.1 milligram or something like that per kg body weight. But we go for this very minimal dose, 10 to 20 milligram. Normal remains quiet, and you don't need to force the gun or manipulate the genitalia or 4%. And this gives good and a simple clitoral massage also increases 10% or more. 3-4 slides, that's it. And this is very important thing. As a gynecology person, we don't read this, but we think that this is an LPM. It is not. Transition period is a one period which is very much important. If the animal is taken care during this particular period, be it a cattle, be it a buffalo. If it is taken care during this particular period, 90% of the postpartum problem which we are thinking or which we are getting will be removed. And this period is called transition, that is 21 days before and 21 days after calving. Because all these players, interplayers, all these metabolic diseases, infection, conception failure, inadequate expression, and majority of the postpartum or during the postpartum problems like dystocia, RFM, metritis, mastitis, lameness, fatty liver syndrome, abomasal displacement, sorry, a flight is going on there. So milk fever, ketosis, name any of the important metabolic disease or a disease that causes huge loss to the human farm, animal dairy farm, they all occur in this particular period. So one has to exercise much interest and control this sort of disease by investing much on transition period management. What happens? I'll talk about the large farms here because this is very important. What we do is when the animal is about to cow 15 days before or 1 month before, we regroup them. We separate that fellow and put in another group. So this makes competition because this animal is not a part of their group. And hierarchy wise, she has to examine, she has to prove her worthy, then only they will accept. So this is competition, one thing, and those animals will not allow her to feed. Once they all eat, the remaining only this fellow has to eat. So, and third is consume less. All these three, it reduces the dry matter intake, where the dry matter intake is much important. Means the quantity is not important, but the quality of the intake is very much important. But because of these behavioral changes, the animals are not able to get it. The second is physiological changes. Only I will just caption it, I will not get into the details. Demand for the fetus is increasing, somatotropin increases, mammary gland increasing, and decrease the insulin level. Glucocorticoid increases because nearing the parturition. So all these physiological change again reduces the dry matter intake. Metabolic changes, glucose requirement is quite high for the fetal growth as well as the mammary gland growth, but decreased availability because the insulin alteration is happening and it leads to gluconeogenesis. That's how mother is a mother. She has to support. So she breaks her own fat and supply energy to the fetus as well as the developing mammary gland. And these lead to negative energy balance. There are two molecules, NEFA, non-estevated fatty acid, and beta-hydroxybutyric acid. So these two molecules are the indicators of the negative energy balance. And if these two molecules are high in a postpartum or in a prepartum or during parturition animal, definitely it is going to affect the immunity of the animal, and the susceptibility of the animal to the disease, microbial disease, is going to increase. This is one part. Second part is it affects, forget about this. So it affects many of the reproduction process like this. Main thing is it impairs the oocyte quality and the development potential. And once the follicular development if itself is not happening, the animal turns into all the uterine environment is being modulated to alleviate or to remove the bacterial contaminants at the time of calving. But in case of negative energy balance, they are not efficient as they are normal to eliminate them. So the immunocompromised status of the animal is increased. On the other side, the bacterial invasion takes. So this leads to negative energy balance is mainly associated or culminates into uterine infection and then postpartum acyclicity. These two are very important and they should be taken care if you want to really manage the situation, not treatment. Treatment is something different that comes in the later part. But prevention is better here. So in that case, we have to take care of the transition period. Transition period is the one period as a gynecologist or as a reproduction person or as a per se veterinarian, one has to give a lot of emphasis so that the problem do not come. But if you want to take as a therapeutic this one, that is something different. But these are all the preventive measures. So the last one slide, this is this one. So how to go about? If you want to really manage, most of us as a veterinarian, we usually think that therapy only. Oh, animal is not giving this, so let us give this injection. Treatment comes a little later. And once the animal is immunocompromised, once the animal is energy deficient, whatever the hormone you give, it is not going to. There are some animals, they will respond. But a majority of the animal will not respond to the exogenous hormone if they are energy deficient. So first we have to correct that. So for that, these 5M, microenvironment maintenance, especially at the time of calving, we maintain 90%, almost 100% of the animal, they get the microorganism to be entered because the cervix is open. But if we manage the microenvironment, we can downsize their coming into the uterus. These are very important. Even mastitis, we have to control. Even like MMA in case of pig, metritis, mastitis, agalactitis is quite common in case of pig. When I was there in Northeast, I could see a lot of cases. In case of cattle and buffalo is also there, but the terminology is different. But if we prevent mastitis, then we can downsize uterine infection or vice versa also. It is possible. So management of nutrition and feed delivery, feed intake and energy level. Without nutrition, whatever the therapy we give is not going to yield anything. Take it for granted. Monitoring the calving process, yes, wherever the assistance is required, we have to. And immunity is very much important, especially peripartum period, the transition period, like polyherbal or other supplements we can give. So the composite reproduction management of buffaloes involve first and foremost, as I told us, nutrition. Again, you remember nutrition, management, novelty. If these three are good, then reproduction there is no problem at all. So first and foremost thing is optimize the diet for the given herd. That is important. Good care transition period. These are all mantras. Good care for transition period. Regular peripartum follow-up, which I have shown you in the flow chart. Then ultrasonographic monitoring in all open buffaloes and PGF12 for treatment wherever CL is there. Time DA for buffaloes 85 to 115. If it is not happening, then we can go for any of the controlled breeding protocol as well. Early pregnancy diagnosis, now many things are happening, and maybe in the near future, we hope that something will come out for buffaloes for diagnosis of pregnancy at the earliest. Non-cycling buffaloes, application of estrus induction protocols on the time DA. So this is a composite reproduction management program, point-wise. This, if you want to have really a high report efficiency in case of buffaloes, per se, cattle or any other animal, we need to look into all these aspects. It is not one pillar. And any one pillar is shaky, the whole building will collapse. So I will complete my talk saying this. This fellow, he is the Dr. Stephen J. Roberts, and the book which I have given is a third edition. By reading his book, 1971, second edition book only, I got very much interested in my third year of BBSc and got into this VGO, and still I am living for VGO. For that purpose, I requested him for the third edition, and he has told me, assured me, in somewhere 92 or something, before he expires, 2 years before he expires, he has written a letter to me saying that now the fourth edition is under revision, and once it is revised, I will send you a copy. But unfortunately, he demised before that, and after that, Junior Roberts and other person, they have not taken interest to revise. Maybe third edition is the last edition, or is going to be the last edition for this particular. But this is a very beautiful book, especially for my student friends. I request, I suggest, I request. Don't fear with the volume of this one. If you keep on reading, it will create a lot of interest. Kindly read from preface to the index, the preface to the last. And he says in the preface, one can only see what he observes. And one observes, sorry, there is a spelling in this one, and observes only things which are already in mind. This is a wording from Bertrand, a famous French detective. So if we see a buffalo as a buffalo, then buffalo will be like a buffalo. And if we see already something in mind, no, it is not, and this is the thing which is going to, then buffalo will be left out as a buffalo, what we are having now. And with a quote of William Hansel, it is not a wonder that reproduction sometimes fails, but rather a miracle that so many pregnancies terminate successfully. This is a wonderful word, and it gives a lot of meaning to our gynecologists. Hope I have done justice to my job, and thank you so much for the patience listening. If any queries, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Once again, as usual, you have again given outstanding presentation, and indeed it was a very good presentation, sir. Now, uh, so now the platform is actually open for the participants for open discussion. So if you have any queries or any questions, you can directly put on your mic on, or you can drop in chat box.
Mahua, one thing now,
Yes, sir.
mic means now it will be disturbing because 100% there will be no coordination. So everybody
Okay,
will
sir.
speak and it will be troublesome and it will be
Okay.
something like that. So better it is to be typed in the text box or the
Okay, sir.
message box so that if any query, then I can answer.
Okay, okay, sure, sir. So if
Sir,
anyone
Fasal
is
sir, I
having
am
any
very
question,
sorry. I have taken some of your time. Dr. Fasal is there.
No,
yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
Sir, I am sorry. I have taken some of your
problem,
time.
sir.
Extremely sorry for that.
No, sir, not at all. I was enjoying your lecture, sir.
Pleasure, sir. Thank you,
Can
sir.
you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Nice presentation.
Dr. Manna, just look in the chat box if they're having any questions so that we can pick
So
up some
yeah,
of the.
some Kebjan has asked one question. Still, lots of hormone and diagnostic markers are available for yeast detection. Why yeast detection is a major problem in the country? Kebjan, it is an excellent question. Sometimes what we do is